Right, I'm starting this live fired up too. I don't know why I end up starting all my lives fired up, but here we go. I guess it means I'm passionate. I'm a passionate person. So, all right, today we are going to talk about how to be open and ready to make changes in your business. Obviously, we have more questions and answers, we have more unknowns. There's just so much that just keeps flip flopping on us, and it's definitely a roller coaster. Um, but I know with ups and downs, we can choose to be steady and figure out where we align. And I've learned that through. I'll just really quickly. We're waiting for people to go on. Like I realized, like in my personal life, like as I've had different toxic people in my life, like I can go up and down with them, and I can go, oh my goodness, I can't handle this. Or you can figure out who you are, and you know what leads and guides you, and you can kind of stay steady. And I know it's not perfect, and it's okay to get emotional and have those more up and down days. But overall, if our overall pattern is just more like this, a little bumpy, hilly road versus going up and down mountains, I think we'll be better off and we'll be able to navigate uh, our way forward because we're not going to be so fearful and anxious. And when we're in that mode, like nothing good happens. And I just experienced that with my daughter. I actually just said that to her because she was freaking out. I have homework and I can't get it all done. And it's like, just calm down, because like if we're all freaking out, then we won't be able to accomplish anything, and then we're not going to be able to do any good. So, um, all right. So I'm really excited to talk with you guys today about just a pathway forward. It's there's so many unknowns. You know, are they going to close back down in the fall? And there's so much that each state, depending on what state you're in, that could be different. Different countries, obviously, too, and there's just so many unknowns. And so I hope to be able to help you navigate. My goal with this live isn't to just do a risk management analysis. Like there's plenty of those online. I still recommend you do them. They're not fun, but they're needed. And so like you can Google. Actually, there's a really good one that Facebook put on, and it's just a resource. Let me see if I can find the name of it for you. It's a small business resilience kit. And then if you Google that with Facebook and PDF in it, it should pop it up. And it's a great one to kind of just go through and see what your risks are. So today I want to talk more on some other areas, more around how to stay innovative and agile and being willing to move and change and be willing to pivot in your company if you need to. And so those risk analysis can kind of help you understand or know what questions to ask. And I will mention a couple questions during this live to kind of get you thinking. But I do also recommend you doing some of those other risk analysis. And the one I'm looking at that was put on, I think it's put on my Facebook, but the FEMA, let me just give you a couple stats. So FEMA and the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, so that's where the statistics were pulled from. But in typical natural disasters, and this one is obviously like hit everybody, and then some people are hit with natural disasters on top of that. And I know with natural disasters, that can affect full communities in a large way. And obviously this is affecting the world. And then we have the riots and all that are going on and looting with businesses. And so there's just so much that I'm sure makes you fearful to potentially have a business. And I hope to be able to kind of help you calm your nerves, see a way forward, and be able to have hope in where you're going. But if you don't act, like, let me just give you some stats. So 40% of small businesses will not reopen. So if that's immediately. So when there's a natural disaster, typically that's kind of the stat that happens. 1 year later, about 25% of small businesses will close. And then 3 years later, about 75% of small businesses without a disaster plan will fail. And so, and if you think about small businesses make up 99% of all the companies out there. So when we talk about small businesses, like, they're really important. These same things apply for large companies. In fact, today I'm going to be talking about a large company that I'm like, what are they doing? And I'm sorry they're going to be the guinea pig in my example today. But so this applies, I believe, for small and large companies. And then 50% of employees are employed by small business owners. So that is a large percentage of businesses, small businesses employ people. So it's important. So that being said, let's dig in. So first, I'm going to start with a story, and it's something I've kind of been following, and I don't know why I've been hung up on this story, but it's regarding Trader Joe's. And I'm not a huge shopper of Trader Joe's, so I'm not doing this because I'm picking on them in any way. The only reason I'm not is I like variety. I mean, I don't like 50 types of toothpastes, but give me 3 at least, not just one version of toothpaste. I like to have a little bit more than just one option. Um, so I'm kind of like, I feel like everything in the world is like full extremes. And so even like with Trader Joe's, I feel like what they're saying is full extreme one way because they're trying to be completely opposite of what Walmart and Amazon are doing. And so I'm going to kind of talk about Trader Joe's first and kind of set the framework and then go into some principles that will hopefully help you think about the way forward. So if you just Google like Trader Joe's 2020 or online delivery or online shopping, you can start to just read some of the comments that the CEO is saying. And you know, let me actually just read a couple of quotes I had copied. It says, instead of passing along unsustainable cost increases to our customers, removing delivery will allow us to continue offering outstanding values, quality products for great everyday prices, and to make better use of valuable space in our stores. And then he also talks about, he says, well, at Trader Joe's, the reality is that over the last couple of decades, we've invested those resources in our people rather than build an infrastructure that eliminates the need for people. And so I think he's thinking that, I mean, I think his intentions are good. Like he's thinking that, oh, I don't want to replace people with technology or robots or anything like this. But if you go to forums and you read up, people want online delivery. They want pickup at stores. And so I've said this in other lives, and it's something that I'm really big on, is innovation to me is defined as how to best serve your customers. So a lot of times companies, if you look at some of the companies that are like non-existent, that have been here, that were here for over a century and decades, and what happens is they get so stuck in the what and the how of their company. This is what we do, and this is how we do it, and I'm not willing to change that. But if you focus less internally and be like, no, we're a product-driven company, and we're all about making sure we have the best value in all of our products, no matter what. Well, what if people are willing to spend a little more because of the convenience of doing that? And so what we need to do in companies is actually flip our focus and not be so product focused, and actually say that as one of their values is they're very product focused. I think their intent was that they do a lot of like Trader Joe's brands, but we need to actually be externally focused. We need to say, okay, what is it that the customers are wanting? What is it that, and not even what they're wanting, but how can I improve the experience for them? Because if you think about cars, like I know there's a Henry Ford quote out there that if I did what my customers wanted, they would have wanted a faster horse, right? And so they didn't even know cars existed. So for innovation and creativity, we don't want to limit our brain or our mind to just, here's our mission statement, here's what we do and how we do it, and that's all I'm going to do. In fact, I'm writing something where I'm actually throwing out the mission statement, because it's like, no, we need to be vision focused, think of the long-term game, and then be agile and be willing to move on the things that make up your goals and your mission goals for in the short term. And so I just think, like with Trader Joe's, they're missing the mark in the fact that they're still hung up on this is what and how we're going to do it, and we're not going to change, when their customers are wanting something new, and it's not going to change. Technology is not going away. I mean, think about the younger generation. They're so used to it. They are willing to have an experience through technology. For instance, in our company, we do a lot with Facebook bots. Well, Facebook bots, we're not pretending to be a human, but it sure does make my life easier. If I like somebody, I want to follow them on Facebook, or I can actually, if they have a bot on there, we can actually be guided on a journey of say, hey, you can sign up for text messages or emails, and it's not that we're forcing them to do it. It's just that we're guiding them through a journey, and they're selecting what they want. And so they're choosing to engage. And so it's not taking away from the human experience. Innovation to me is a way to it's all about improving the human experience. So I think it's really important to understand what technology and artificial intelligence, machine learning. I know that's not really the whole purpose of this, but I don't want you to limit yourself to what you've always done. We've got to be willing to pivot and look forward. And technology isn't going away, and so that's why I want to make sure I emphasize technology in this one. Is if you're one of those that are like, oh, it'll be fine if I just keep doing this, it probably won't be eventually if you're not willing to embrace technology and incorporating that into the human experience. Technology and artificial intelligence and machine learning is all about improving the human experience. And if technology is being used for things other than that, then we're missing the mark. Again, technology isn't to replace people, or it. When I think about technology, like it could replace like the lower end of work, but like I tell my team, that's a good thing because we want people. We have such smart intellect with all of us. Like I'm gonna have. Sorry guys, I have a coughing fit. um, Okay, I don't think I muted, so you got the full cough. Sorry about that. Okay, so what was I saying? So like with my team, I always tell them, hey, we have these amazing brains. Like, let's use them. Let's empower the creativity and the innovation that is in all of us as people. And so when you accompany that with technology, that is amazing. And so it's just really cool to be able to embrace that. And I know we do as well. So, all right. So now I have a child walking in. This is like an awesome live today, you guys. I'm on a meeting, okay? Okay, so with Trader Joe's, it's just be willing to look forward and be willing to pivot in your company. So I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. So think about like what lessons did you learn with COVID, and what things did you have to shut down? Were you able to stay virtual? So my company was 100% virtual, and because we were 100% virtual, like I was looking at that risk analysis that I was talking about, and it's amazing how that it takes away a lot of risk when you're able to stay virtual. Now I know a lot of companies aren't able to be virtual, and obviously like Walmart's and Trader Joe's are not. But it's important to be willing to look at what lessons you learned during that time you're shut down and what you can learn from it. Like, so for instance, one thing I had learned at a conference was they asked you, if your company tripled in revenue, what would that do to your company? Like, what things would break? And I think that's a really good thing to do as well. Like, okay, if you tripled your revenue, what would that do? But I think it's also important to go the other way. If you, I have a child that's yelling at me, so 1 second. I don't know why, okay? Woohoo, I'm back. Okay. So, you know what? I used to get so embarrassed by these things. And then I realized, I try to maintain professionalism as much as possible, but I am a mom with 7 kids and a business that I run, and it's not always perfect, and that is okay. So, all right, so back to it. So I had asked, like, what lessons did you learn from COVID? So just write things down, like start journaling and reflecting back on the things that you experienced. And then what exhausted more of your time by being shut down? Like, what things were you working on? So that could be a great way to think of a contingency plan and be like, okay, maybe if I outsource or have a partner or a company that can be ready for me to help with that, then I can do that. Or maybe I need to hire somebody on my team to be willing to be trained in how to do this area. So just think about the things that took more of your time. So when it does, you can stay as the visionary, or if you're at the helm of your company, like, you need to stay focused on the future and where you're headed, and be willing to be able to stay innovative and shift and adapt. And then think about what worked well in your organization. What are the things that were working? They're like, oh, this is actually better. Like, I've had people say, some friends that I've said, like, hey, I think we're going to actually stay virtual. We might have another office, but we're really enjoying it. We're realizing we're more productive. So just start to think about kind of the things that you're spending time on, the things that maybe it's worked well, not worked well, and how resilient are you? I think there's things you need to look at from a financial perspective. Do you have the cash flow? For instance, like I said, if your revenue stops for 3 months, or if it goes down by 3 times, would you have enough cash flow to be able to make it through the next time? So, what are your risks? I think that's important, and that's what I was saying. Like, go get one of those documents online and just do a risk assessment of your company and kind of get a feel for where your vulnerable areas are. I realize for us, because we are virtual and diversified all over the U.S. and even out of the country, we it allows us, if there is a natural disaster in one area, like for instance, the employees in Florida, I know when there's a hurricane that comes, like they're shut down. And so if we're 100% in Florida, the business shuts down during that time. For us, because there's just only a handful in Florida, we can then, and they're not all in the same area in Florida either, we can then pivot and we can make sure that we have other people to handle those. And so it's better be proactive and not so that'll never happen to me. I think we're not saying that anymore with what's going on. I think we're like, no, I think things could happen now. It's really affected everybody, and even down to like, I think like with me with food storage, right? I was always taught to have food storage, but because I never, I mean, we have some, but it was like not to the degree that it needed to be, and but now that I've lived it and understood it, it's like I can intrinsically understand why it's now important for me to do that. Where before it's just kind of like this distant thing that, oh yeah, I know, I need it. So, and then, how will shifting these things impact your customers? It's always important to think about how this will impact the customers that you're working with. Like I said, the whole purpose of business is to improve the human experience, whether that's your customers, your employees, your vendors. So look at all of those things. We had a client that was, or a vendor, and they, even though they were in operation and they're a large company, they decided to not pay us during the COVID time. So people are already struggling, and then the companies that are in existence are not paying, or are paying slower. And I thought, it's important to look at all angles, not just your customers, but also your employees and your vendors, because it's all of those working together that help keep your business working. And if you maintain those relationships, then it's a give and take. When you need something, the vendor to jump and move fast for you on something, they're willing to do it because you've treated them well too. But if you're like, hey, I'm gonna not pay you for this time, but then I'm gonna ask you to really go really fast on this later, it's we will do it regardless because we care as a company. I mean, we're not the type to not, but other companies aren't like we've run our company, and so it's just really important to look at the whole picture with that. And then look at your employees and your staffing. Like, what does it look like if things change? What is the things that you want to do with those employees to either help them or to prepare them? How will those decisions impact your staffing? So I think we have to be aware if this happens again in the fall. Obviously, they're saying it's not going to, but we don't know. I mean, cases are spiking in some areas right now, and so we have to prepare for that. And so those are just some of the questions that I hope you can kind of ask yourself and think. And but more than anything, I just want to reiterate again the concept of innovation and agility and focus. I'll say those three things. So innovation, just to kind of close, I want to kind of talk about the innovation, focus. What did I say? Innovation, focus. And I'll think of the next one. So with innovation, like I'd mentioned, the way I define innovation is how to best serve your customers, your employees, your vendors. It's being creative and innovative with all of those things. And I think, again, going back to Trader Joe's, he was like, no, like, we're not going to change. We're not going to put drive pickup or online delivery yet. My husband's in the asphalt world, and like Walmart has probably 16 at one location for pickups. Like, it's not going away. In fact, the more people go there, the more they'll value their time, and then they'll be more willing to then you'll be more willing to it was, oh my goodness, guys, sorry, my brain is like, I had a packed week. And so so with Walmart, let me back up so I get my train of thought going again. So with Walmart, they had like 16 online pickups for Walmart. Like, people are going to get used to that, right? And they're going to be like, hey, I'm even more willing to spend more because I value my time. And Trader Joe's is all about that experience and that kind of that boutique shop and really making sure making the shopping experience fun. Well, you can make things fun with technology, and that's something that I'm not sure that they completely understand. Like, if people are willing to embrace technology and they want technology and they want convenience, we have to be willing to shift and pivot and innovate for that. And so that kind of leads to technology. Like I said, technology is to improve the human experience. It's not to take away. And so that's just really another critical part. And I remember the third one. And then the third one is focus. I've talked about this in some other lives too, but I fully believe in the power of focusing on what you're good at. And so if you're the visionary of the company or the CEO of the company, you have to make sure that you have people ready to go in all of these areas so you can play the role of being willing to pivot and shift, because that's your role as a visionary and a CEO, is to see out into the future and be willing to pivot and shift in that regards. And so so that's why I wanted to, with this, focus more on less on risk management, and one that's not as fun, and more on just innovation and technology. So Tara says you live out of passion for each of those every day. So thank you. See, I have another kitten. It's just, this is life, guys. I think I finished everything, and he's not going to let up until I go. So comment if you need anything. This is awesome. All right, I'm going. My time's up, apparently, as a mom. All right, bye.
Mommy. Hey, Mommy. Mommy.
This is nuts.